FM 90. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy.
Your views, our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
It's a Monday, the 17th of June, 2024. Thank you very much for making time to join us on this edition of Spectrum, coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90, which is broadcasting from the central building here in the heart of our city, Kampala, along the Stool Street. We are also coming to you live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. On that website, there's an icon with the word Listen Live. You click on that icon, you'll be able to listen to this radio station. There's also another option via the different radio listening apps, which can be obtained from the Google Store of your smartphone. Download any of those radio listening apps. You'll be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe, as long as you have an internet connection. Radio 1 provides you another alternative, which is DSTV. If you have a DSTV connection, our audio channel there is 897. There are two ways to contribute to this discussion. One of the ways is actually to send us a message via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. Keep the comments coming so that we can have an interaction with the guest here in studio. Another option is actually to call in time, allowing our open for phone lines for you to actually do so. Recently, the National Environment Management Authority, Nema, launched a campaign targeting encroachers within wetlands. Now, this exercise has prompted an uproar from communities affected and a section of political leaders. There are also plans to actually sue Nema over this particular matter. So this evening we are asking, what exactly is behind this campaign? Why is it being conducted in what some people have perceived to be a brutal manner? Now, the head of Nema is our guest this evening, and he will answer those questions and many more that we expect to you, dear listener. So join us, like already stated, in this discussion by sharing with us via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. Good evening, Dr. Barirega Akankwasa. Thank you very much for joining us this evening on Spectrum.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Good evening to our listeners. Thank you very much for hosting me, and glad to be here.
How has your day been like today?
Busy, but fine. We continue to make efforts to protect and safeguard our environment so that we can safeguard the well-being of Ugandans.
All right, you are the man in the news together with the institution that you lead, Nema, and it's about a campaign that you're actually conducting. We'll want to begin from the genesis. What is this campaign about, and what do you want to achieve at the end of it all?
First of all, Kenneth, this is not a campaign. This is routine law enforcement efforts aimed at restoring degraded ecosystems, and wetlands is one of these ecosystems. It's not a campaign, it is routine law enforcement operations. We have operations in Rubiji and other areas of the country. For example, we have operations in Ushenyi, we've had operations in eastern Uganda, we've had operations in northern Uganda. So it's not a limited time campaign, it is routine environment enforcement operations.
All right. So there has been an uproar, concerns expressed by different people who have been affected, communities. First of all, people do not understand why you're conducting what you're calling routine enforcement in the manner that you're doing, demolishing houses. Some people think in a reckless manner, without a human rights perspective, without taking into account the livelihoods of very many people who are being affected. How would you respond to this uproar that we're seeing across some areas, including most prominent, the Lubigi section, where demolitions have actually taken place?
First of all, we need to put into context the reasons why we must protect wetlands. Because we need to start from there to understand whether the action of protecting the wetland actually outweigh whether the benefits outweigh the costs or inconveniences created by law enforcement. Rubiji wetland ecosystem is very, very important for so many reasons, the prominent one of which is flood regulation. You know the Rubiji channel. If you've seen it, if we had rain for 3 hours consecutively, Rubiji channel would not take that water. We would have all the roads cut off. That's one way how Rubiji is important, but also Rubiji is a sieve, is a natural filter for water because it removes pollutants from water, eventually protecting our lakes and rivers, and therefore ensuring that we have access to clean water for human consumption as well as production. Rubiji is a habitat for so many species of birds, of reptiles, of amphibians, and if you've been observant, our grey-crowned crane, or our national bird, actually calls Rubiji its home. So that's how important Rubiji is. But also, Rubiji being in a capital city or urban area is very important for air pollution control as well as climate amelioration. It helps us to give us clean air that we breathe and absorb emissions that come or are associated with the urban areas. So we must protect Rubiji for the common good of the people around Rubiji as well as the common good of all citizens of Uganda. So I know during law enforcement there are inconveniences. There is no law enforcement exercise that does not come with inconvenience. But we must look at the greater good, the common good, far outweighs the inconveniences that come with it. It's not true that the enforcement operation is harsh or using excess force. In fact, if I may update the nation, today we've entered the 15th day. 15th day. And in these last 15 days, we've not had a single shot. That's how peaceful the exercise is. In all the 15 days, we've not had a single shot. We have police, we have UPDF, we have Nema, we have KCA, we have UNRA once in a while, we have Ministry of Works once in a while. It's a multi-institutional operation. We have Ministry of Water and Environment. We've not had any skirmishes where there is trampling of human rights. In fact, all the houses or structures, makeshift structures that have been removed, by the time the enforcement operators come on ground, most the goods have, the properties have been removed, people have been evacuated, and actually in some cases, most cases actually, you find even doors and windows have been taken, and sometimes the iron sheets have also been picked.
Dr. Barirega, let's try to be fair. Some of the pictures have gone public. We are also seeing videos, stories have been aired on TV, where we have seen people saying they were not even around, and the houses are demolished, their items destroyed inside. In cases where you're saying people had removed doors, there are a few incidents. But also, we had a man who died as a result of shock following the demolition of his house in that particular regard. So you cannot say that human rights have not been violated in this instance. Can you maybe explain to the people the procedure you are undertaking as you enforce this, these rules that you're talking about? I
want to categorically put it clear that nobody has died, no single life has been lost as a result of the operation.
You need to go back to Rubiji.
No. I follow what goes on in Rubiji. I get daily updates, and our people are on the ground. The person who was talked about apparently developed a health problem, and he was taken to hospital, and he was declared dead. It was not associated in any way with the operation of Rubiji restoration. He was not in any way exchanging or in confrontation or in connected in any way with the ongoing operation. So people should not confuse this death with the ongoing operation. We've not had any single incident where a person has been injured or a person has been assaulted. If there are any cases where human rights violations have been committed, we are happy to receive these, investigate them, and punish them. And I can assure you, the law enforcement personnel we have on the ground are very responsible. They have clear briefing, they have clear sensitization, and they do not come when people are not aware. It's not true that they come and break your house when you are aware and you come back when the goods or property has been destroyed. We give you notice. Nobody is removed from their house or from encroachment before being given notice. In fact, first notices were issued in 2021. Second round was issued in 2022. We've been on radio, we've been on TV, we've been on social media warning people to leave. The third round of restoration orders was given in 2023, and the fourth round in 2024, just before the operation. So it's not true that there is a sudden or surprise attack or whatever. There is no such a thing. This is a legitimate, legal enforcement exercise that begins with a restoration order. A restoration order gives you 21 days within which to challenge the order if it is issued unlawfully, or to implement the order. We've not received any challenge of our orders, save for only Starbucks. It's only Starbucks that responded to our restoration order. No any other entity has challenged our restoration order, and therefore that means they are aware. And in fact, if you look at the documents circulating online as evidences of land ownership, these are LC1 letters, and these LC1 letters are purporting to give out pieces of wetlands to people. People must know that the land tenure system for land in Kampala, Wachiso, and many parts of central Uganda is Mairo land. So you cannot have customary ownership of land in central region. It is Mairo land. Mairo land is all titled land.
I'll be coming to you to dig deeper on that issue of land tenure system, because there are people who are complaining. There are some people who are saying they bought from Buganda Land Board. There are those who are saying, I own this particular piece of land, therefore this wetland is mine. I'll be coming back to you in detail. Sure. But I wanted to first exhaust the human rights perspective and what you actually take into account before you evict someone. Of course, newspapers have been capturing stories, and I'm reflecting on a story published in the Daily Monitor, where I have examples of some people who were narrating their ordeal. There's one lady called Adija Najemba. She's 95 years old. She says she settled in that area with her husband in 1941. That's one example. We have another gentleman here who actually says, he's called John Serugo, a hawker, who says he built that house over a period of 20 years. So people have been asking, where has Nema been all this long? Nema waits for people to actually inject in their money, and then they come and destroy all their savings. All somebody has worked for, somebody constructs a building for 20 years, and all of a sudden, in a single day, not even a single day, mere seconds, it crumbles to the ground. Put yourself in the shoes of that hawker who built the house for 20 years.
I need to clear the air on this again. It's not true that we have people who have encroached on Rubiji for 20 continuous years or even 10. Before we conduct restoration exercise, we have a map of the wetland, which is georeferenced, meaning we have coordinates where the wetland passes, and with technology actually, you can have a flashback. You can flash back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 15 years, and I can tell you we have evidence that those claims are not true. Because we can lay for you a map on ground, on table. We lay for you image analysis to show what was there even before the Tamaka Road passed. We can show you what was there and when encroachment started coming. But let me add this, that operations in Rubiji have not started yesterday. The first operation, first recent operation in Rubiji was in 2016. So people have been warned, people have been removed, and they keep coming back. So it's not true that we have people who have had an interrupted, occupation for 10, 13 years. That's not true. Even under the limitation on bona fide occupants, and our constitution, the law provides that you must have been on land for 13 years uninterrupted. In other words, nobody has come to say you are here illegally. Nobody has warned you. Nobody has told you. From 2016, the government has been warning illegal encroachers. They have received restoration orders, so they cannot claim bona fide occupancy under the constitution. They wouldn't succeed. It's not true, and therefore untenable.
All right. Now, let's look at what you take into account before you actually come to evict people. And you had actually to us into the discussion around the land tenure system. Now, we have categories of people. Those who are saying, one, they own the land together with the wetland, and they have a title that actually shows that the wetland in question belongs to them. Then we have people who were given certificates, Chapa Mungalo, by Buganda Land Board. Then we have a category of people who are simply putting in place makeshifts for businesses, for purposes of business along the road. All those have been raised down. So let's begin with the person who says they actually own the land and the wetland is on title.
Okay. We have two categories of titles that we recognize. The Constitution first protected wetlands in 1995, and in 1998, the Land Act expressly prohibited issuance of land titles on wetlands. That means that all land titles issued on wetlands before 1998 are valid titles. The titles are valid even if they are in wetlands. However, utilization of these titles must be subject to regulation of land use by government in accordance with environment laws. Now, the second category of people are people who have land titles issued in wetlands after 1998. These titles are null and void. These titles are impeachable without any form of compensation. So those are the two categories of land titles. In the instant case of Rubiji, Rubiji is on Mairo land. As far as I'm concerned, Rubiji is land belonging to the Kabaka. This is Mairo land, and so we cannot have other titles on Mairo land other than Mairo land itself. But for us, we are not looking at matters of land ownership per se. For us, we are there to protect the wetland ecosystem. It doesn't matter where the wetland exists, whether it is on government land, whether it is on private land. It has to be conserved, it has to be utilized in accordance with the law. So the matters of land ownership do not in any way absolve any person from offenses of encroachment of wetland. You can encroach on a wetland on your land title, and that is a criminal offense prosecutable at law.
All right. There's a category of people who have actually gotten Chapa Mungalo from Buganda Land Board.
Yes.
They are also there, and we saw them actually waving and saying, we paid for this land.
If you have Chapa Mungalo from Buganda Land Board, the ownership right may be legitimate. I am not saying it is. It may be legitimate because the land belongs to the Kabaka, and if the Kabaka has rightfully given you ownership rights on his land, that is very fine, that is legal and respected. However, like I said, land ownership does not waive responsibility on the land owner from protecting the environment. The wetland, whether on land owned by a person or land owned by government, is protected by law. Before you utilize it, you must obtain government permission. You must conduct an environment and social impact assessment. You must obtain a wetland user permit so that you utilize the wetland for activities that are compatible with the wetland ecosystem, so that the common good of wetlands is not lost for you and the general public.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. My guest this evening is Dr. Barirega Akankwasa, Executive Director at the National Environment Management Authority, Nema. We are reflecting on the ongoing, what you call the ongoing enforcement effort to actually protect wetlands in different parts of the country. And we're trying to make sense of what has been going on. People have been crying out and saying they are making losses, and questions have been thrown at Nema. Where have they been all this time? How come their campaigns have not actually been sustainable? In fact, let's look at that particular issue in detail, Dr. Barirega. You said this is not the first time you are enforcing. You were in this area
last year,
but even I'm seeing stories here online. You were there in 2018,
2016. Correct.
Yeah. How come the very people the very places that you're cleaning up now were cleaned up last time, and you allowed people to again encroach them? Where have you been? That's one question that people are asking. You wait for people to construct,
yes,
and then you come to to enforce measures.
Yes.
What exactly is going on?
I want to first of all tell Ugandans that criminal offenses do not expire. Criminal offenses do not expire. This is commonly known as the principle of no statute of limitation for criminal offenses, or no time limit for criminal prosecution. It does not mean that if you are not seen now, after 100 years, if you are seen, the offense dies away. The offense remains. So it matters not whether Nema sees you or you hide from Nema and proceed to establish an illegal structure. At any one time when the government finds you, the offense is alive. Now, coming back to Rubiji and other wetlands.
Given the reason I'm asking you that question,
yes,
is you said you have an electronic system that can show you how changes are occurring. And one would think that the moment somebody starts encroaching on the wetland, you are able to detect that and prevent the construction from going on even before they spend their money.
Not exactly that. What I told you was that we have capacity to analyze satellite imagery to tell us what was there when. But this is not progressive, it is looking back.
Why are you unable to stop the construction immediately it begins?
First of all, we are able to stop construction. That's why we are stopping. Even this very operation is stopping construction and removing
you're demolishing buildings.
And stopping others. Construction is a continuous process. The people who were removed in 2016, the people who were removed last year may not necessarily be the people being removed now. So encroachment is a continuous process. You remove people today, others come and occupy. So illegal activity is a continuous process. Police does not stop working because they have arrested one thief. No, other thieves will emerge. So encroachment is not one person encroaching. It is a continuous process. It is an emerging thing. You remove one group of people, other groups of people emerge. So it's a continuous process.
And I want to tell you that as we speak now, somewhere, somehow, someone is actually feeling maram in a wetland as we speak.
You see? So encroachment and criminal
and you are
activities.
Unable to stop that.
Exactly.
Even where the public has told you that so and so is filling up a certain wetland, you are unable to intercept the vehicles that are doing that.
Sometimes we intercept. Sometimes they go unnoticed. I saw on social media dredging of lake to remove sand in Kasanje. I saw it on social media. When we sent our team, indeed it was true. The people had quietly taken the dredgers into the lake and were siphoning sand. So it is true. Certain activities, very many illegal activities actually go on unnoticed, because Nema as an institution, Wetland Management Department, which is the relevant government department responsible for management of wetlands, and local governments do not have adequate capacity to police every inch of land, every inch of soil, every inch of water, to know who is doing what at any one time. The capacity to prevent may not be there. That's why there is criminal jurisprudence. It is presumed that the state cannot prevent crime. It can prevent crime, but also address it through deterrence. Deterrence means that what you were unable to prevent, you should punish it to deter others from doing it. So, Nema is not omniscient, neither is it omnipresent to know where there is degradation at any one time in real time. Because we have limitations of manpower, limitations of technology, limitations of operational funds. I can give you an example. We have how many districts now in Uganda?
Over 100.
By count? Over 150. You know? Nema's total staff capacity is now at 219. Meaning if we send every one person to every district, including administrative assistants,
all right.
we shall not cover the districts.
All right, we might not need to
so
go
we
to
can't
all the
be everywhere.
We might not need to go to all districts, but we can use examples. Let's use the examples of here in Kampala,
yes,
where there's occasional flooding.
Yes.
And we've been told, even by you, that the reason there's flooding in Kampala is partly because there are some people who have constructed in wetlands.
No doubt.
There are so many big buildings in Kampala here that are in wetlands. And people are asking, why are you not raising those ones down?
I cannot guarantee that even this building where we are now on Kampala Road could not have been established on a wetland. I can't guarantee. Because Nachivubo, you see, have you heard about Nachivubo Channel?
I know where Nachivubo Channel is.
Yes, Nachivubo Channel was created because the whole of Nachivubo used it to be a wetland. And because it was drained, they created that channel called the Nachivubo Channel. So can I now go to Ham Towers and return the wetland? Can I go to Garden City or Oasi Mall or Game Rugogo or this Rugby Stadium? I cannot unwind the time to remove what has been encroached already, but I have the opportunity. To stop further encroachment and restore the restorable wetlands.
Wouldn't somebody say rightly that you are targeting the weak?
Not at all. I have broken.
Running away from the powerful.
We have enforced in factories. We've enforced in industrial parks. We've enforced in big hotels. I
have not seen any factory going down.
Well, if you've not been following, I can give you information.
Us an example.
Yes, on Masaka Road, we broke a factory called the ice water factory. It had been constructed in a wetland. We fined them a big fine and demolished part of the structure that had gone into a wetland, and we restricted them to dry land. When I had just entered the office, you remember the run-ins I had with Speak Resort, Chituburu. We had to stop the operations of Chituburu until they had to readjust their plans to remove the lake at Chituburu, which had been identified for development. So these are not small people. We have removed the tax park in Rubiji. I don't know of poor people who own taxis. I am not aware of a poor person who owns a taxi. So you want to tell me those are poor people? We have put down places of worship. We've put down industries. We've put down residences. So our enforcement operations are not targeting how much money you earn. The law is blind. We look at how have you breached the law.
All right. We have already comments coming in from the listener. When we return from the break, we'll reflect on some of them. But also it will be very important to educate members of the public on what activities can be allowed in wetlands. Because we have seen some people who actually say, Nema cleared us to conduct these activities. So stay tuned, Radio 1 FM 90. Spectrum continues after this break.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Live on Radio 1 FM 90. Our topic of discussion today, we are looking at the questions and concerns about the ongoing Nema operations. My guest this evening is Dr. Barirega Akankwasa, the Executive Director at Nema. Well, before we went for the break, Dr. Barirega Akankwasa, we dealt with the issues of the land tenure system and how it affects ownership in the wetlands, where you insisted that as Nema, you still have the sole responsibility to decide how a wetland is used, even if it is on somebody's private property. And I see also there's a document actually issued by Buganda Kingdom where it actually says even if you acquired land from Buganda Kingdom, Nema still has the authority to determine the utilization of the wetland section that is on that particular land. But
thank you very much. That's information that should go to the public.
The question is, in this regard, looking at the statement from Buganda, and also your stance as Nema, and one wonders whether there is coordination. Shouldn't we clearly tell the people, when you're buying a piece of land, you have no business selling or buying a wetland, so that it is carved off? Because we are going to have a continuous situation. We are going to have a situation where this year you are evicting a certain group, and the following year you are targeting another.
Yeah,
Can't we deal with it, map out the wetlands, and have them protected in a holistic manner?
No, wetlands are protected wherever they are. You see, if you carve it out of the title, it would mean you are dispossessing the owner. For example, if government was to map out wetlands and stop them from owning titles, it would mean you are cutting them off, for example, from the Kabaka's bigger Milo title. That is dispossession. It would require compensation. If government did the compensation of the legal rights over that area, it can be dispossessed and protected as public wetland.
All right.
But it is still protected even on your private title.
All right. So in this regard, where we have people who obtain titles from Buganda Land Board,
yes,
are you going to compensate them?
No.
Because you are taking over their property.
Not at all.
That's what they paid for.
They did not pay to degrade the wetland. They paid to have rights in land, which is ownership rights. Now, Nema is not looking at ownership rights. We are not interested in who owns what. We are only interested on how is the wetland surviving, irrespective of where it is, whether it is on your private title, whether it is on Chapa Mungaro, whether it is on government land. The wetland must be protected for its value to society.
All right. Then this begs the question, can't I do anything in a wetland?
You can do something in a wetland. The law, National Environment Act, provides for regulated activities in a wetland. For example, you can get a permit for fish farming on your wetland. You can get a permit for recreation activities. For example, tourism. You can have a tourism and recreation. In other words, activities which do not compromise the ability of that wetland to continue serving you. Because if you have a private land that has a wetland, that's a gem. It is value for you. You have permanent access to water. You have green environment. You have
easy access to malaria and mosquitoes and malaria.
Where you may say so, but water and malaria, which one is more important? Can you live without water? You cannot live without water, but you can live with the malaria and even treat it. So which one is more important? The wetland is more important than in fact, the wetland will help you to prevent more diseases. How about you solve malaria and you get cholera? You solve malaria and you get bilharzia. You solve malaria and you get typhoid. You solve malaria and you get cancer. So the wetland prevents all those diseases through control of pollution and also provision of clean access to water. So, coming back to your question, you can get permission through assessing environment and social impacts and obtaining a wetland user permit to utilize wetland on your land for permissible activities. And I said one of them is, according to the law, fish farming, for example, is access for medicinal plants, is tourism and recreation. Even bricklaying, actually, with the permit, is permitted according to the Schedule 6 of National Environment Act. You can also do mining of sand and clay, much as now we have suspended permitting of sand mining because of the rampant degradation of wetlands. So yes, the law provides for activities that you can get permission for, but settlement is not one of them. Establishment of factories is not one of them. But other activities
and yet
which
we see very many factories in eco-sensitive areas, including wetlands.
In the past. Not now.
All right. We have some feedback coming in from the listeners, and I'll begin with a comment from William, who says, why is the enforcement being selective? Banda, Chinawataka, and Munyonyo wetlands and the Lake Victoria are being encroached on by the high and mighty in full view and knowledge of Nema and other authorities. This exercise is selective. That's a comment from William there. Then we have another comment coming in from Henry, who says, Doctor, when will the Starbex headquarters be demolished? We are waiting for you for Mabira, Budongo Forest, Luera. I'm also waiting to see how Munyonyo Resort that encroached on Lake Victoria will be handled. And yes, that new hotel building that is reclaiming the lake through dumping of soil on the lake shores. There's a Starbex headquarters in Lubiji where this operation has actually been taking place, and they're asking you, when will you act on them? There's another listener, Tilda, who sent in a video of Honorable Nambo Zewachireke, where she is complaining about the dumping of the soil in Munyonyo and asking Nema to take action. We have another comment. Good evening, Radio 1. Nema simply does not want to do its work. I have personally reported encroachment in Ibuwate Swamp when it started in 2019-2020, and they have never done anything about it. People are now selling plots in that swamp. Nothing has been done to date. That's a comment from Nick. We have another comment coming in from Ben. Nema is a disgrace. It only targets the powerless, vulnerable communities, leaving the big shots. In my neighborhood here in Nakianja wetland, Nakianja wetland has been completely filled while Nema was watching. Where is the fairness? That's a comment from Ben there. We have another comment from Mulwanya Richard Emmanuel, who said he is in Nkumba. We have a problem with the elite assuming that every person has their level of low awareness. The people who got the Chapa Mungalo, where they sensitized on how to use the wetland. That's a question. Have you been sensitizing people on how to use wetlands? A comment from Fred. What happened? Well, we have a comment here. I wish Uganda had more people like your guest tonight. One doesn't have to be polite when dealing with the lawbreakers. Nema needs fewer resources in PR and more in enforcement. Bravo, Nema. Good job done. That's a comment from Fred there, who says kudos to you. We have another comment. Good evening, Spectrum. So unfortunate for the victims. When mandate is given, nothing we can do about it. I only plead with the enforcement to allow people to collect their belongings before demolishing their buildings. That's a comment from Anthony there. Another comment coming in from Lawrence, Spectrum. Lawrence listening in from Entebbe. Apologies, mine is about noise pollution from churches. Kenneth, I pray one day you can bring the Nema boss back here to discuss the issue, because some of us can't even stay at our homes because of this issue. Noise pollution being brought in here. Then we have another comment from Okoth Charles, who is listening in from Ngora, Nagongera in Tororo district. Thank you very much for tuning in, Charles. May I know the gazetted wetlands in my area in order to not to waste my resources and time? Land is not growing, but the population is growing. The issue of land use there vis-a-vis the population that we have has also come up. Ariko Andrew writes in and said, Doctor, what do you think people are having in their hearts when they see you being selective while doing your work? For example, Chinese growing rice in Luela, but a man growing sugar in eastern Uganda can easily be taken off, not the Chinese. Yesterday, I saw a factory being left, but innocent Ugandans have their homes going down. What do you say about factories that produce Kavera? That's a comment from Ariko. We have so many other comments coming in. Let's first deal with those very quickly, but majority of them not impressed.
Oh, there is. Where are you leaving out to those who are impressed?
I've said majority of them not impressed.
No. It doesn't. You know, they say that the path to heaven is narrower than the path to hell. So it doesn't mean that the majority are always right. In fact, if they were right, or if majority was always right, here would have the narrow path. But let me address the issue of selective enforcement, because most of them, those you are calling a majority, are raising the same issue. And they've talked about areas where there is encroachment, which have taken note of Buwate, Nachianja, Budongo, Mabira. It is true. This encroachment Munyonyo, we have been there. There are 2 cases which are open, but I have seen posts purporting that there is soil being dumped into the lake to reclaim a lake. That's not true. I think they are referring to soil that was dumped in preparation for NAM to raise the compound of Speak Resort Munyonyo, which was flooded. So that's what they are saying. It is soil in water. It's not true that there is reclamation of lake, because we have been there, but there is an open case of wetland degradation which we are still identifying the owners. Peak Resort has distanced itself from the site, and we are yet to see the owner, but there is an open case there. Now, Starbucks has been the talk of the day.
And there is also another comment actually from Henry,
yes,
who has said, now, what is gazetting? Are we yet to see the bypass demolished? Is Starbucks petrol station about to be demolished?
That's exactly what I am addressing. That's exactly what I'm addressing. When we started sweeping, Starbucks was definitely one of the areas that was targeted. Information on record indicates that Starbucks was established at the former material yard for the construction of the Tamaka Road there. So it was established where the materials for construction of the road used to be put. Okay, so there wasn't water there. That's the first point.
Dr. Barirega,
I am coming. Wait.
Let me tell you.
Give me time.
I stay in Nansana.
Give me time. I explain.
I passed there several times.
Yes.
And I saw truckloads of stones.
Yes.
Being dumped in that place where the fuel station and their headquarters was actually constructed.
There is no way a material yard. You know what a material yard is?
I understand it's already an hardened surface.
Thank you very much.
That was not the case. That was not the case.
But I am telling you it was a material yard. That's information I have on record. And
does your geomap actually show you
yes,
that there was a yard there?
I can show you even on my iPad here, since we are here in this studio. We can rewind the timelines on Google Map and we see what was there and when. So that one is no longer in dispute. Technology has solved that problem. We can see what was there from 1962 to date. So we can follow the timeline. But I was still addressing that issue. Information on record indicates that Nema assessed environment and social impacts of Starbucks there in 2017, and a certificate was issued. That means that the negative impacts of environment were assessed then. I was not there, and I wouldn't say I was part of the assessment, but they have all the paperwork, so it is not true that you can demolish a structure by wish or whims. You have to only demolish based on infringement of the law. Now, sensitization of people, more resources in enforcement as opposed to PR. We have a two-pronged approach, and thank you for this feedback that we need more enforcement than PR. We have a dedicated department of environment education and awareness and citizen participation. So we continue to raise awareness. Even here, I am raising awareness. We have dedicated social media that educates the young people. We go on conventional radio. We go on barazas. We go to schools. We have a robust program working with wildlife clubs of Uganda to create the next generation of environmentally conscious people, targeting secondary, primary, and universities. So we shall approach both enforcement and awareness together. We believe that actual enforcement should be less if people are behaving. We do not pride in enforcement. Lastly, somebody raised the question on gazettement. March this year, government of Uganda gazetted through notice in the Gazette all wetlands. So all wetlands are gazetted. The maps are there. Some wetlands are not yet demarcated on ground. But you know, a wetland is a wetland. You can see it, because the definition of a wetland is a place which is seasonally or permanently flooded by water, and because of that flooding, environment or plants and plant biodiversity has adapted to that. So you will see sage grass, you will see papyrus. You can clearly distinguish using your eyes that this is a wetland or not. So the excuse of no demarcation to me is a wrong excuse, but we are also demarcating. All right. We are going to demarcate.
We have a comments actually coming in from Wamboga Mugiria, one of environmentalists that I know, who has a number of questions, but some of them have actually been asked here. But he's saying, are petrol stations and police posts left untouched by Nema evictors in Lubiji good and environmentally friendly to wetlands? Does petrol station or police posts make their owners, frogs or fish, to be allowed to remain standing in Lubiji or in other wetlands? There's a concern there on the issue of wetlands.
It's already
when it
addressed
comes to those particular issues. Comment coming in from Mohirwe. Peter, I am Peter from Kiuli. The visa in studio is very right. If you have a wetland in your land, the land still belongs to you and you should protect it and gain from it by cutting grass for animal feeds, thatching materials, or selling reeds for building houses, fences, etc.
All Ugandans should think like that.
But not interfering with it.
Absolutely.
Even President Amin used to arrest people who were misusing wetlands in the 70s. Ugandans feared and learnt. We never experienced floods in this country up to the last 7 years when water started taking cars, houses in Kampala, a metropolitan area. Let him leave his office number that we can help to inform Nema officials about what is happening on wetlands. That's a comment there requesting for a phone contact.
Excellent.
Then we have a comment from Justine. There seems to be selective use of wetlands by Nema. Namamve Industrial Park is a wetland. Mbale Industrial Park is a wetland. I recall Nema one time putting down a house for Mr. Nyakana, the boxer, and yet other houses for big people are in wetlands. That's a comment from Justine, who still references the issue of selective application of the law. Amo Martin listening in from Bale. The MD and his staff who work and stay in Kampala, Wakiso and Mukono need operation funds to see in real time illegal activities in wetlands. Somebody is actually wondering, do you need operation costs to see things happening around where you work?
Yeah, in real time, yes.
We have another comment from Kagarura Dickens, who says, good evening, Spectrum. I totally support Nema in cleaning and protecting the environment. Please extend this operation to Mbarara and save River Ruizi, which is the lifeline of more than 12 districts in the Kato corridor. People near River Ruizi cleared all the thick vegetation. Please save River Ruizi. It carries a loud and answered noises. Dickens Kargura, environmental resources advocate, there with that particular comment. We have another comment here. Government has said foreign investors in wetlands be left. Why harass the indigenous? People invest when government is watching. Government has enough capacity to stop encroachers, investors before they invest. In Lubiji, they are breaking some old houses. Look at Namuongo, Bugolobi, Ruzira wetland here in Kampala, Munyonyo, etc. Government should resurvey all wetlands and entrust times to dome independence, to some independence. That's what it actually says there. Then we have another comment. Good evening, Spectrum. Don't you think Nema is using impunity and selective application of the law, which is double standards? Kamugo Fred Keta listening in from Kira municipality. Then we have very many comments coming in. Dr. Barirega, Kyomuhendo Tom writes in. I think this is a comment for another program that is coming in. We have Sam who says the doctor should direct hatred and negativity away from I think this one is also, the doctor has already gambled tooth and nail to defend Starbucks. That's a comment from Sam there who says you are gambling with Starbucks. Radio 1, is Namave a wetland or not? That's a comment from Stephen. And then we have another comment coming from Okoth, who writes in and says, is planting trees allowed in wetlands? That's Okoth in Tororo, the one who said he wants to know which areas are gazetted in his district so that he does not waste his money. Then we have another comment. I really can't see what Nema has to defend. Like they have failed and will continue failing. All wetlands out of Kampala are being blocked. Take a road drive. Julius advises you to take a road drive to be able to see the many wetlands that are actually being destroyed. How many meters should I build away from a wetland or environment resource? That's a comment from Henry, who wants to understand how far they should stay away from a wetland. Another comment addressed the issue of wetland along Cape Town Road to Munyonyo. I was born and grew up in Buziga since 1979. From Kansanga to Bunga, there is a stretch of wetland now occupied by buildings and Cape Town Road wetland. Comment on that part. That is Ronald listening in from Katavi. Then we have another comment. Henry from Banda says, thank you, Kenneth, for the program. I think some of defense or excuses that the ED is giving are unfortunate. You can't tell me that someone has built in a swamp 30 years and you are not aware. You demolish them in 2024 when they have been on the land since 1996. Nema may be understaffed and may not have police everywhere, but why can't they work with local governments? This is a sign of a dysfunctional government. Well, that comment brings close to the feedback that we're expecting from members of the public at this moment. And Dr. Barirega, time is not on our side. I will ask you to respond to some of these issues.
Very quickly.
We prepare to get out of here.
Majority of them were commending us and encouraging us to continue, and I welcome the commendation. And we shall proceed to ensure that Ugandans get their right to enjoy a healthy and clean environment. How many meters from wetland? The regulations require that you need 30 meters from the wetland to construct your house or infrastructure. Kansanga wetland, yes, there is encroachment there, a big one. There has been operations there, and we had started actually some time back before I even came to Nema. Nema had already started the enforcement there, and people went to court, and there is a court injunction. We are following up that court case to ensure that the operations resume there. Under staffing and working with the local government, I want to confirm that even in this operation that we are discussing, we are working together with the Wachiso District local government. We are working with the KCCA. These are the local governments, so we work with them. But the capacity issue that we face are the same capacity issues that they face. They are the same capacity issues that the Wetland Management Agency faces. But also, away from the capacity, I think what we need is behavior change. You do not need to be told to do right. You need to do right whether in daytime or in darkness. So you do not need to be policed. This is not a police state. We are under democratic dispensation. Even in developed economies like United States or Europe or China or Russia, they do not police every inch of their land, because no government has ever had the capacity to police every inch of soil. That would amount to a police state. But even in police states, you cannot have capacity to be everywhere. The government lives on the premise that the citizens are law-abiding citizens, and therefore law enforcement should target the isolated few errants in society. It is presumed that the majority of people in society are rightful people, are people who live by law, and so enforcement should be geared to a few errants from society. And that is the approach we shall continue to take. We shall continue changing the minds of the majority, creating a new generation of those who conserve and live in harmony with nature, and then strengthening law enforcement to deal with those few errants in society, so that together in the future we should have a society that even will manhandle you if you encroach on a wetland before Nema comes.
On this issue of capacity, lack of capacity by Nema, somebody is actually wondering, why don't you work with districts?
But I have just told you that we are working with the Wachiso District, the local government, we are working with the KCA, even in this civil operation. So we work together, but the capacity issues they have are the same capacity issues we have. I can pick out any district. Go to any district. You will go to a district natural resource office or district environment office. You will hardly find a district environment officer with even a motorcycle or with operational budget. So we work with them, but all of us, whether ourselves or Wetland Management Agency, we need more capacity in terms of personnel, in terms of equipment, in terms of operational funding, so that we can together achieve. But ultimately, the great success will only come if the common citizen, if the wananchi start treasuring environment and live as the true stewards who protect the environment. Only then can we succeed. Government alone can never deliver environment, and like other goods like roads or health services, environment takes all of us to play a role to achieve it.
I'm afraid that's all we could have this evening. I might thank you very much, Dr. Barirega Akankwasa, Executive Director at the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA. Thank you very much for making time to be with us on the Spectrum this evening.
Thank you very much, Anderson, and a good evening to our listeners. Our operation continue, and somebody had asked a question which I didn't answer, requesting that we should allow people to remove their property. I can confirm that nobody is prevented from removing their property. Nobody's house has been broken without giving them notice or opportunity to remove all their goods.
And the phone number?
The phone number, we have a toll-free number where you can report degradation of environment, and I would like to give it to you. It is a free call. You don't need to pay anything. 08001444444.
Up next, we have the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, we'll have the Soul Train with BP Jr.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. Brought to you by Housing Finance Bank, a financial institution regulated by Bank of Uganda. Housing Finance Bank, we make it easy.
The views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of this radio station or its management.